The story of Barry Allen is one that transcends the boundaries of ordinary superhero tales. It's a narrative woven with threads of tragedy, resilience, and the complex implications of wielding power beyond human comprehension. The Flash isn't just a man who runs fast. He's a character whose journey forces us to confront fundamental questions about fate, time, and the consequences of our deepest desires. Central City, like many fictional metropolises, appears ordinary on the surface. It's a place of skyscrapers and suburbs, of morning commutes and evening news. But beneath this veneer of normalcy lies a city destined to become the epicenter of extraordinary events. And at the heart of this transformation stands Barry Allen, a man whose life was defined by tragedy long before lightning ever struck. As a child, Barry was unremarkable in the best possible ways. He was kind, curious, and possessed a strong moral compass that would later define his heroism. His parents, Henry and Nora Allen, raised him in a loving home that emphasized compassion and integrity. These early years were formative, establishing the foundation of character that would later enable Barry to handle his incredible powers with responsibility rather than recklessness. But childhood innocence rarely survives intact, and Barry's was shattered in a single night of inexplicable violence. He awoke to sounds of struggle downstairs, crashes, screams, and the terrifying awareness that something was terribly wrong. When he descended the stairs, Barry witnessed a scene that would haunt him for decades. His mother surrounded by what appeared to be a tornado of yellow and red lightning, a figure moving within it at impossible speed. In the aftermath, Nora Allen lay dead, and all evidence pointed to Henry Allen as the murderer. Despite Barry's insistence that he saw something supernatural, a man in the lightning, no one believed him. His father was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, leaving Barry alone with his grief, confusion, and an unshakable conviction that justice had not been served. This miscarriage of justice became the driving force in Barry's life. While other children dreamed of becoming astronauts or firefighters, Barry fixated on a singular goal: proving his father's innocence. This obsession led him to forensic science, a field where evidence speaks louder than testimony, where truth can be extracted from the smallest details. He excelled academically, his natural intelligence sharpened by purpose, and eventually secured a position with the Central City Police Department's crime lab. Working within the system that had failed his family was not without irony, but Barry found purpose in helping others find the justice that had eluded him. Each case he solved, each criminal he helped put away through meticulous analysis of evidence, felt like a small step toward redemption, not just for his father, but for the system itself. Then came the night that would transform Barry from an observer of extraordinary events to their embodiment. It was late, and Barry was alone in his lab during a violent thunderstorm. He stood by the window, watching lightning split the sky, when a bolt struck a nearby electrical transformer. The chain reaction that followed, the surge of electricity, the explosion of chemicals on the shelf beside him, should have killed him instantly. Instead, it put him in a coma for 9 months. When Barry finally opened his eyes, the world had continued without him. But something fundamental had changed within him. At first, the changes were subtle. Heightened reflexes, increased appetite, moments where time seemed to slow around him. But soon, the truth became undeniable. Barry Allen could move faster than humanly possible. His first accidental sprint took him halfway across Central City in seconds, leaving him disoriented and terrified. The physics of his new abilities defied explanation. He could accelerate to speeds that should have torn his body apart, yet somehow his cells adapted, protected by what scientists would later call the Speed Force, a mysterious energy field that both granted and sustained his powers. Like many who suddenly find themselves with extraordinary abilities, Barry's first instinct was to use his speed to help others. He fashioned a friction-resistant suit complete with a cowl to protect his identity, and took to the streets as the Flash. Early rescues were clumsy but effective, stopping robberies, pulling people from burning buildings, intercepting bullets meant for innocent bystanders. Central City soon buzzed with stories of the red streak that appeared in moments of crisis, a guardian angel moving too fast to be clearly seen. But Barry's heroism wasn't born solely from altruism. Behind every saved life and thwarted crime lay the hope that somehow these good deeds would lead him closer to the truth about his mother's murder and his father's wrongful conviction. Each villain he faced, each mystery he unraveled might contain a clue that would finally make sense of that night of swirling lightning. This quest for answers led Barry to discover that he wasn't alone in possessing extraordinary abilities. The same accident that created the Flash had affected others, creating meta-humans with powers ranging from weather manipulation to telepathy. Some use these gifts for personal gain or destruction, becoming the very threats Barry had sworn to protect against. Among these meta-humans, one figure stood out, a speedster like Barry, but cloaked in yellow, emanating malevolence. This Reverse Flash, as he came to be known, possessed not only speed equal to Barry's, but also knowledge that seemed impossible. Knowledge of Barry's identity, his past, and most disturbingly, his future. Their first encounter confirmed what Barry had suspected since childhood. This was the figure in the lightning, the true murderer of his mother. The revelation that his nemesis was not just another meta-human but a time traveler from the future added layers of complexity to Barry's understanding of his powers. The Speed Force, it seemed, didn't just allow for movement through space but also through time itself. This discovery opened possibilities that both thrilled and terrified Barry. If time travel was possible, could he return to that fateful night and save his mother? The temptation was overwhelming. After years of helplessness, of visiting his father behind prison glass, of nightmares filled with swirling lightning, Barry finally possessed the means to undo the tragedy that had defined his life. Despite warnings from his mentors and friends about the dangers of altering the timeline, Barry made the decision that would have the most far-reaching consequences of his heroic career. He ran back through time to the night of his mother's murder. What followed was the creation of what became known as the Flashpoint Paradox, an alternate reality spawned from Barry's interference with the timeline. In this new world, Nora Allen lived, but the ripple effects of her survival transformed the world in horrifying ways. Heroes became villains, wars raged where peace had prevailed, and the fabric of reality itself began to unravel. Barry found himself in a nightmare of his own making, his memories of the original timeline fading as this new reality solidified around him. Worse, he discovered that his powers were unstable in this altered world, leaving him increasingly powerless to fix what he had broken. The lesson was brutal, but clear. Some points in time are fixed. Some tragedies cannot be undone without creating greater ones, and the power to change the past comes with responsibility too heavy for any single person to bear. With great difficulty and personal sacrifice, Barry managed to restore the original timeline or something close to it, but the experience left scars deeper than any physical battle. He had glimpsed the terrible potential of his powers, the cosmic consequences of acting on personal desire rather than greater good. The Flashpoint Paradox became both his greatest mistake and his most important lesson. In the years that followed, Barry continued to grow both as a hero and as a man. He formed alliances with other heroes, becoming a founding member of the Justice League. He mentored younger speedsters who emerged with similar powers. He faced threats ranging from common criminals to interdimensional invaders. Through it all, he maintained the fundamental decency and optimism that had defined him since childhood. But perhaps the most profound evolution in Barry's journey was his relationship with time itself. Having witnessed firsthand the consequences of trying to change the past, he developed a more nuanced understanding of his place in the time stream. Rather than viewing time as something to be conquered or controlled, he came to respect it as a force to be worked with, not against. This maturity extended to his personal life as well. Barry found love with Iris West, a relationship that endured despite the complications his double life created. He found a way to balance his responsibilities as the Flash with his continuing work as a forensic scientist. And most poignantly, he found peace regarding his parents. Not through changing what had happened to them, but by accepting it and honoring their memory through his actions. The story of Barry Allen reminds us that true heroism isn't measured by the magnitude of one's powers, but by the wisdom with which they're used. The Flash could outrun bullets, vibrate through solid matter, and traverse time itself. Yet his greatest challenges were ethical rather than physical. When is it right to change the past? How much responsibility does one person bear for the greater timeline? What price is too high for personal happiness? These questions have no easy answers, and Barry's journey shows that even the fastest man alive must sometimes slow down to wrestle with them. His story is compelling precisely because super speed doesn't exempt him from the moral complexities that all humans face. It merely raises the stakes of his decisions. In many ways, Barry Allen embodies the best of superhero narratives. His origin combines personal tragedy with fantastic empowerment. His powers are visually dynamic, yet metaphorically rich. Speed as freedom, as responsibility, as the unstoppable forward movement of time itself. His rogues gallery includes not just evil counterparts, but conceptual challenges to his worldview. But beyond these genre elements lies something more universal. Barry's journey speaks to anyone who has ever wished they could undo a painful past, who has struggled with the knowledge that moving forward sometimes means accepting what cannot be changed. It speaks to the human capacity for resilience, for finding purpose in pain, for channeling grief into protection of others. The lightning that struck Barry Allen that night in his lab didn't just create a superhero, it created a metaphor for how ordinary people might respond to extraordinary circumstances. We may not be able to run at supersonic speeds or travel through time, but we all face moments where we must decide whether to be defined by our tragedies or to transform them into something meaningful. In the end, that may be the most enduring aspect of the Flash's appeal. Behind the red suit and lightning emblem stands a person who, despite his fantastic abilities, remains recognizably human, flawed, hopeful, and constantly striving to be better. Barry Allen runs faster than anyone on Earth, yet his most important journey has always been the internal one, from grief to acceptance, from revenge to justice, from the impulse to change the past to the wisdom to shape the future. The Flash teaches us that sometimes the most heroic act isn't running away from our problems or even racing to solve them. It's standing still long enough to accept them, learn from them, and then moving forward with purpose. In a world that increasingly values quick fixes and instant gratification, there's profound wisdom in the story of a man who can move faster than light, but chooses instead to proceed with caution, compassion, and respect for the delicate balance of time itself. As Barry Allen continues to race across comic pages, television screens, and movie theaters, his lightning trail serves as a reminder that true heroism isn't about power. It's about purpose. And sometimes finding that purpose requires us to slow down long enough to consider not just what we can do, but what we should do. In that moment of reflection, even the fastest man alive finds his greatest strength.